What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're looking at some more I Don't Work Here Lady stories. Stormed out after quitting a job I never had. This happened to me yesterday and I can't not share it because it's absolutely hilarious to me. I was recently hired in a smallish motorcycle garage / workshop just under 3 weeks ago as a mechanic. Yet what I tend to do most of the time is errands for the other people that work there as I'm new, and I'm not going to complain. Normally it's organizing bolts, tidying tools up, sweeping or grabbing food on the lunch break for everyone. They chip in cash-wise for it, obviously. Just before lunch, myself and one of my colleagues managed to bend a breaker bar, a large bar designed to increase torque on a nut or bolt to make stiff bolts easier to loosen, and therefore need to replace it. I take the company card as it's a company expense, take everyone's money and head into the town to do some light shopping. Thankfully, we're situated about a 5-minute walk from a Halfords, British store for bicycles, car parts, tools, etc. And there's a small coffee shop opposite. The work uniform we have is essentially just black overalls, and I personally put a hoodie over the top half as it can get quite cold around this time of year. This makes me look very similar to the uniform that is worn in the Halfords shop. I turn up and head to the tool section and find a breaker bar easily enough. They're quite large, so it's hard to miss them. While I'm there, I have a general browse at a few other things in the shop, and an employee asks if I need a hand. I'm juiced up on coffee and I'm reading the back of an alarmed padlock box when they speak, and it makes me jump, smacking my head on the shelf above and knocking some things off the shelf. Nothing heavy or delicate, thankfully, just a few pairs of heated gloves and some tubs of glue. Apologizing and able to laugh about it, I assist the worker in placing everything back onto the shelf when a buzzer goes off, and he says he has to head to the office and thank me for helping restack the shelf. Just as I finish restacking the shelf and picking up the item I was looking at, a man walks in with a toolbox that the place sells and comes up to me kicking and screaming that he lost a part of it or something. I honestly wasn't paying attention to what he was saying. I attempted to explain that I don't work here. He simply pointed at my legs, presuming they are trousers not overalls, and calls me a liar, and that if I don't replace what he lost, he would fire me on the spot. The worker who had headed to the office arrived back at the end of the aisle about this time and asked if there was anything he could help with, and I, having spotted his name tag beforehand, told him by name that I've got this. Turning back to the clearly irritated gentleman, I tell him that he can't fire me because I quit. I place the items I was holding on top of the toolbox straddled across his arms and storm off, being careful not to turn and show the massive grin on my face. Out of the doors I went and off to the coffee shop before returning to work, having completely forgotten to return and buy the breaker bar. I told them the story and another colleague walked over and bought it himself with the card. Really lightened the mood of a cold, dirty workshop for the day. I mean, there are a couple of things that are funny about this story. Firstly, the fact that this stupid customer who you encountered thought he had the power to fire a worker. And secondly, the way you played the situation, I can't imagine his reaction. Maybe he thought to himself, wow, I actually can fire workers, but I guess this guy's quitting. Oh well, I've got what I wanted. But yeah, you definitely made him look like the mug in this situation. Well done to you. Now for our second story. Karen sees me feeding my newborn and still demands I help her because her time is too valuable. I went to Walmart today with my wife and newborn, looking for a bike for our daughter. To our surprise, the store was not very crowded, but it was still a bit busy, as you can all imagine, due to the holiday season. We arrived at the bike racks and my wife had the urge to go use the bathroom, so I stayed behind trying to determine which one was more fitting for my daughter. Suddenly, the newborn wakes up crying and I start scrambling to prepare his bottle as it was time to feed. As good of a father as I believe I am, I could not find a freaking thing in that diaper bag, so the chaos was becoming real very fast. Enter Karen, equipped with high heels, sunglasses, a hat worthy of the Kentucky Derby, and a dress straight out of a romantic scene from an 80s movie. Excuse me, help me get this bike down? Excuse me? I knew she could not be talking to me because I was clearly struggling to open a zipper on a bag while the deafening screams of my baby were driving everyone else away. Excuse me, do you speak English? I took a peek over my shoulder and wouldn't you know it, Karen was staring directly at me. Are you gonna help me? I kept ignoring her and managed to get what I needed out of the bag while my son made his best attempt to break every glass in the store with his high-pitched screams. At that exact moment, my wife showed up and somehow I managed not to curse this lady out. In fact, I politely replied, "Can you give me a moment, please?" I finished preparing the bottle while my wife held the baby, handed my wife the bottle to feed our son, and I turned and faced the evil Karen. So, are you gonna help me? Did you realize I was busy with a baby? I don't have all the time in the world to chit-chat. Are you helping me or not? Okay, which bike do you want? That one right up there. I love how all these people that post these stories just fake being the workers. It's so good. She pointed at the exact one I'd eyeballed when I first arrived. So I calmly pulled the rack forward, took the bike down, and started walking, bike in hand, towards my wife. You can just leave it right there. Oh, I didn't get this down for you. I got this down for me. I'm buying this one. Learn some effing manners, you old idiot, and take your freaking shades off. It's 7:30 at night. How dare you? My wife burst out laughing so hard that the baby started crying again, but this time I didn't mind the noise, as it was blocking Karen's mumbling and swearing as we walked away with our daughter's new bike. Oh, what a story. You know what I would have done when she said, "Excuse me, do you speak English?" I would have just looked at this Karen straight in the eyes and said, "No, I don't speak English," in that exact accent, not even trying to fake it, just see what her reaction might have been. Or maybe if she said, "Do you speak English?" I'd say, "Not for you, I don't. F off." Now for a slightly different story. Didn't get arrested because the officer thought I did work there. This happened about 6 years ago, right before my old car gave up the ghost. The turn signal knob had gotten caught on my coat about a week prior to this and had snapped completely off, sadly taking with it my ability to turn on my headlights. I was leaving my job that night and I'd been parked up the road. As I had needed to do for the previous week, I brought a pair of needle-nose pliers with me so that I could jam them in the steering column where the turn signal knob used to be and manually turn on the headlights. As luck would have it, I had a bit of trouble getting them on that night, but managed to turn them on right as a police cruiser drove past me on the road. He must have seen my butt half hanging out the car, jamming something into the steering column, because as he rounded the corner and went out of sight, I saw reflections of red and blue lights flashing in the trees. Not putting two and two together, I hopped all the way in and got buckled up and shut the door. Next thing I know, I saw the same car go whooshing past me at top speed in the opposite direction. Still not figuring it out, I just pulled out and started heading home. In my rear view, I saw the cop slam on his brakes and pull a U-turn right as I started to pull into the gas station a few doors down from my job. As I get out of the car, the cop comes flying up into the parking lot and locks it up right behind my car. Then he rolls down the window, squints at me and says, "Oh, I guess you work here, huh?" And then he backs out and leaves. It wasn't until I went into the gas station that I realized he thought I was stealing that car. But when he saw me in my khaki slacks and red polo shirt, dressed exactly like the cashier was, he figured nobody would steal a car to drive to work. So I almost got arrested, but I was saved because I didn't work there, but I looked like I did. Now, to be honest, I think this story would be better placed in r/IDontWorkHereLady. If you guys don't know about that subreddit, I've done a couple videos now on it, and it's really, really good. It's pretty much the opposite of r/IDontWorkHereLady. Now, what I want for you to do, for those of you that have seen my other r/IDoWorkHereLady videos, comment down below which do you prefer out of these two subs. I don't work here lady or I do work here lady. Personally, I like them both, but I want to know what you guys think. Let me know. Now for our final story, entitled "Woman Thinks I'm a Student." This happened many years ago. Me and my grandparents were buying flowers at the garden store. The store was run by young people studying gardening. My grandfather had chosen a small rose bush to take to my grandmother's grave. There were people lining up at the checkout, so in order not to lengthen the line, I went to see other flowers while my grandparents were waiting. The cashier was right next to the front door, so a longer line would have blocked the door. Suddenly, some woman comes up to me and begins to talk to me. "Where have you taken all the beautiful flowers?" What? Yes. At first I thought she meant where we found the roses. The roses are... She interrupts me. "No, I'm tired of it, that you always hide the best flowers in the back rooms that you can sell them to relatives. I've earned equally beautiful flowers." "Oh, sorry, but I don't work here. They're going to my mother's grave. They are beautiful." At this point, I look at my grandparents, but they don't realize I need help. My grandfather is talking to someone he knows and doesn't look my way. This entitled woman grabs my hand and says angrily, "Are you listening to me?" I was very confused. I wasn't even in junior high, so I had no idea how she imagined me to be about 4 years older. Well, my grandfather bought roses. They seem to be in good shape. "Where are they? Show me where they are." I walked to the roses while the woman was muttering to herself behind me. I stop. "Here," I point at the roses. The woman begins to complain about the look of the roses and demands me to bring her a better look looking set. I don't know if they have any more roses. You might want to ask the cashier or someone who works here. The woman does not listen to me but continues to ask her questions. Finally, I pick up one of the roses and say to the woman, "This looks good. It has open flowers and a few buds, so it should bloom for a long time with proper care. This is what my grandfather bought." "Well, if you have no others, then I guess this is good. But you better come to the cash desk right away so I can plant this before dark. How much does this cost?" I'm starting to walk towards the cashier and outside doors where my grandparents are already waiting and say, "I don't know, ask the cashier." The woman is just still saying something when my grandfather calls me. "Well, come on now, OP, we should still get to the cemetery." Okay, I walk to my grandfather and hear this entitled woman rushing over to the cashier. And as I'm just passing the woman paying for her flowers, she begins to complain about how unprofessional I am. I stop at the door to see what the salesman answers. He's confused by the woman. But she doesn't work here. After all, she doesn't look old enough to be one of the students. And besides, I just sold flowers to her family. Only now does the woman turn around and look at me properly. She turns completely red and starts stuttering but can't say anything while I wave at her and run after my grandparents. Oh, that is the moment we all live for on this subreddit. It's so good to see her face when it finally clicks that you were just a kid shopping with your grandparents. All in all, what a kind, helpful, young person OP seems to be, right? Like, yeah, she tried to say that she didn't work there, but once she saw that this entitled woman didn't really care, she just helped her out. Well done. Anyway, guys, that is the end of this episode of r/IDontWorkHereLady. If you want more from this subreddit, click the video on screen right away for an absolute banger of a video. As I said before, drop a comment down below. Let me know which you prefer, r/IDontWorkHereLady or r/IDoWorkHereLady. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll put 2 videos on the end screen, one from each subreddit, and you can choose which one you want to watch. Go right ahead.